For you guys tuning in, whether it's live in person or the recordings. We appreciate you. We appreciate you liking the videos, sharing the videos. All that helps the algorithm just so that it gets us out there and people start seeing it. So as they're scrolling through their reels, that people are liking it, commenting, they're like, oh, all of a sudden it starts popping up on other people's feeds. And then this way they just get to see some of this stuff. And we couldn't do that without your help. So thank you for doing that. We are a 501c3, so the IRS makes me say this. We can receive tax donations. We can receive that on our website at brightesthope.org, as well as in person, wherever works for you. All the money coming in is going out. We keep it lean and mean so that you know where the money's going. We have no bills, so we want to affect the community in the positive way that we can, and we do that through your support. Now, we are starting our Bible study upon request to do the book of Esther. And so we're going to dive into the book of Esther. Now, I sent out an email a couple days ago. This way everybody kind of knew ahead of time. Esther's in the Old Testament. It's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 16. It's the 17th book in the Bible. So it's after Nehemiah, but it's before Job and before Psalms. Now, Esther's a cool, it's a great story. It's a great thing. There's a lot of courage in it, unknown. I was saying it's kind of like the soap opera of soap operas in the Bible. It's a great story. And so we're going to dive in. So, Esther chapter 1. This is what happened during the time of Xerxes. Okay, it's not Xerxes. It's Xerxes? Who ruled over 127 provinces, stretching from India to Cush. At the time of King Xerxes' reign, his royal throne in this citadel of Susa. And in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all the nobles and officials, the military leaders of Persia and Media, the princes and the nobles of the provinces were present. For a full 180 days, he displayed the vast wealth of his kingdom and the splendor and the glory of his majesty. When these days were over, the king gave a banquet lasting 7 days in an enclosed garden of the king's palace for all the people, from the least to the greatest, who were in the citadel of Susa. The garden had hangings of white and blue linen fastened with cords of white linen and purple material to silver rings in marble pillars, or on marble pillars. These were couches. There were couches of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of porphyry. Marble, mother of pearl, and other costly stones. Wine was served in the goblets of gold, and each one different from the other. And the royal wine was abundant, in keeping with the king's liberality. By the king's command, each guest was allowed to drink with no restrictions, for the king instructed all the wine stewards to serve each man what he wished. Queen Vashti also gave a banquet for the women in the royal palace of King Xerxes. Is that Xerxes? Am I saying that right?
That feels right.
It feels right. It seems right.
House of Rust? It's
XER. Yeah, one Hebrew has it as Hasuras.
I have it
Some have it as Xerxes. Xerxes.
Xerxes.
Yeah. Okay. Xer Xes. Yeah. All right.
Sounds
One.
like a Z. Xerxes.
Yeah. Okay.
It means ruler over heroes or hero among kings.
Okay.
So that's the same king, just a different name.
Yeah, the Hebrew translation was a Hashursash. Hasuerus.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah. So different kind of king names, titles. I think one's a Hebrew variant of it. Another one's more like I think this is more like a popular known variant.
Xerxes in the book of Esther, this Persian king is referred to in Hebrew
Yeah.
as Ahasuerus, which is the translation. Xerxes is the Greek translation.
Xerxes is Greek. Okay. There we go. All right. So now this way I'm not going to say it wrong throughout the whole reading of this. All right. Okay. So the queen's holding her own banquet. On the seventh day, when King Xerxes was in high spirits from wine, so he was drunk, he commanded the 7 eunuchs who served him, Mehuman, Beztha, Haberna, Bigtha, Abagath, Zareth, and Carxus. Best I can do. To bring before him Queen Vashti, wearing her royal crown, in order to display her beauty to the people and the nobles, for she was lovely to look at. But when the attendants delivered the king's command, Queen Vashti refused to come. Then the king became furious and burned with anger. Since it is customary for the king to consult experts in matters of law and justice, he spoke with wise men who understood the times and who were closest to the king. Karshina, Sethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Maris, Marcina, and Memucan, the 7 nobles of Persia and Media, who had special access to the king and were highest in the kingdom. According to the law, what must be done to Queen Vashti? He asked. She has not obeyed the command of King Xerxes that the eunuchs have taken to her. Then Memucan replied in the presence of the king and the nobles, Queen Vashti has done wrong, not only against the king, but also against all the nobles and the peoples of all the provinces of King Xerxes. So he's declaring that this was a great disdain, not just to the king, not just to the throne, but to the entire kingdom and all of the upper class. Hey, Nan, good to see you. For the queen's conduct will become known to all women, and so they will despise their husband and say, King Xerxes commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she would not come. This very day, the Persian and Median women of the nobility who have heard about the queen's conduct will respond to all the king's nobles in the same way. There will be no end of disrespect and discord. So they're saying chaos is going to erupt. She said no, and chaos is going to erupt. The end. Therefore, if it pleases the king, let him issue a royal decree, and let it be written in the laws of Persia and Media, which cannot be repealed, that Vashti is never again to enter the presence of King Xerxes. Also, let the king give her royal position to someone else who is better than she. Then, when the king's edict is proclaimed throughout all his vast realm, all the women will respect their husbands, from the least to the greatest. So they're worried about an uprising. They're worried about everybody just causing a big to-do. They're worried about order and everything else. And so here they're saying, cast her out, make an example of her, and all the women's going to realize that it's not okay. They're trying to make an example of her. The king and the nobles were pleased with this advice, so the king did as Memucan proposed. He sent dispatches to all parts of the kingdom, to each province in its own script, so its own writing. So all the different provinces had their own languages, and he made a decree on each one of those languages, and to each people in their own language, proclaiming that every man should be ruler of his own household using his native tongue. Later, when King Xerxes' fury had subsided, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what he had decreed about her. Then the king's personal attendants proposed, let a search be made for beautiful young virgins for the king. Let the king appoint commissioners in every province of his realm to bring all of these beautiful women into the harem at the citadel of Susa. Let them be placed under the care of Haggai, the king's eunuch, who is in charge of the women, and let beauty treatments be given to them. Then let the young woman who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. This advice appealed to the king, and he followed it. So, since the king decreed that she can no longer be in his presence, stripped of her royal duties, therefore it was pretty much a divorce. And in that case, now he's looking for a new queen. Essentially, they're going to do a beauty contest throughout all of his realm, and the most beautiful of each region are going to come to this place and have beauty treatments. So it's spa days and kale wraps and cucumbers and massages and skin treatments and oil and glitz and glam and wardrobe, the whole 9 yards. Now,
but do these women know what's...
They know what that they're going to try to appeal to the king.
So they know this going in.
So they know this going in. Yep. So it's decreed out to all the women.
This is the first Bachelor.
Yes. Yes. This is ABC's The Bachelor. Dun 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 dun. Who's gonna get the rose? Now you know where ABC got the idea. Now, there was in the citadel of Susa a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin named Mordecai, son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, who had been carried into exile from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, among those taken captive with Jehoiakim, king of Judah. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadashah, whom he had brought up because she had neither father nor mother. This young woman was also known as Esther, had a lovely figure, and she was beautiful. Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter, for her father and mother had died. So Mordecai's been looking over her, raising her up. When the king's order and the edict had proclaimed, many young women were brought to the citadel of Susa to be put under the care of Haggai, Esther also was taken into the king's palace and entrusted to Haggai, who had charge of the harem. She pleased him and won his favor. Immediately, he provided her with her beauty treatments and special food. So right away, the Haggai liked her and started giving her preferential treatment. So she was getting beauty treatments immediately. She was getting preferential food that would help her skin, all that stuff. And he assigned to her 7 female attendants selected from the king's palace and moved her attendants into the best place in the harem. So not only did she get preferential treatment, she got 7 servants for her. She got all these things. Got the best room in the bachelor pad. You know, she's got the lakeside part. No. Yes.
Or whatever their
Yes.
fear of beauty is at that time.
Correct. She was very, very stunning. And so she appeals to, you will see it, she appeals to the king. But right out of the gate, she's very beautiful. They see her, they take a liking to her, not just because of her beauty, but because of her attitude, right? They like how she presents herself. They like the attitude and the grace and the everything that she's doing is all part of it. Because it's not just like you can take anybody's beauty, okay, here, you're a queen. It's, they have to hold the royal, the royalty hood of it. So it's like, let's say Princess Kate not going to William because she's mad at him. The tabloids would have a field day with that, right? So similar kind of thing, but as Kate goes in, she's got to hold herself to a certain standard. You look at that on the flip side of what happened with Meghan Markle and all that stuff and how the family dynamic completely changed to the point where, I'm not an insider, but to the point where they removed their own royal titles out of the family line and moved to Canada. So they went, I think, first to Canada, then they went to California. I don't. They you know, but they're not in England anymore. So here now, Meghan, 7 servants. Right? Complete the completion number. Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background because
Do you have any idea what the 7 means at this point?
No. Well, I mean, they did know somewhat of it, but it was not as known as it is today. So the 7 a lot of times is like sometimes a random number, sometimes not. I don't think that King Xerxes, because he wasn't a Jew, so I don't think he had the same tie-in with that number 7. Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background because Mordecai had forbidden her to do so. Every day he walked back and forth near the courtyard of the harem to find out how Esther was and what was happening to her. So he's very concerned. He cautiously tells her not to reveal that she's a Jew because he doesn't want that to be held against her. Okay, so they purposely hold the Jewish information. This is key all the way through to the end. Okay, that it's not based upon, this is a true love story and it's not based upon anything other than love. And you'll see why. But this is key going into the end of it. So Mordecai is very concerned about her. He's always checking in on her. He's walking the gate. He's getting inside information. He's getting information from servants and her or whatever in any way, shape, and form to make sure that she's okay. So he's doing the fatherly duties of worrying about his, essentially daughter.
Now, wouldn't Malachi be Jewish?
Mordecai.
Mordecai?
Mordecai is Jewish.
Now, would he look different than the other men in court?
Doesn't necessarily look that different because of the Middle Eastern side that they could fully say this is Jew, this is not. More so some of it is by the clothing that they would wear, stuff like that. But I don't think because he was taken into exile, so he's been living in exile from Jerusalem after the King Nebuchadnezzar removed him out of Jerusalem.
Right.
So he's kind of assimilated into this other culture, even though he still held on to his own. He's more so in like a foreign land. Okay. And with that, Esther's father died, and he took her under his wing.
Tell her not to reveal she's Jewish. Would his look give him away, is what I'm getting at.
No. Well, it does come up later on, but it's not known that Esther is with him. So he kind of looks it, but she doesn't. And so, yeah. And we'll find that in the story too. So he's checking in on her a lot. Before a young woman's turn came to go to King Xerxes, she had to complete 12 months of beauty treatments prescribed for the women, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 with perfumes and cosmetics. And this is how she would go to the king. Anything she wanted was given to her to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. In the evening, she would go there, and in the morning return to another part of the harem to the care of Seshazga, the king's eunuch who was in charge of the concubines. She would not return to the king unless he was pleased with her and summoned her by name. So this was a 12-month thing. It was 6 months of beauty treatments of oil and myrrh and all that stuff for skin and all that treatments. Then perfumes and cosmetics. A full year at the spa, all expenses paid. And then when she would be called to go before the king, she could not return unless being called again. So, now we're in verse 15. When the turn came from Esther, the young woman Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle Abihail, to go to the king, she asked for nothing other than what Haggai, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the harem, suggested. Didn't bring anything extra, asked for advice, took the advice of the eunuch, the king's, one of the king's right-hand men, asked, what should I bring? And he's like, just bring this. And she followed his lead. So she listened and applied it, where the other women were not doing so. They could take anything and bring it in and try to present themselves. So she does exactly what he says. And Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. She was taken to King Xerxes in the royal residence in the 10th month of the month of Tebeth in the 7th year of his reign. So this happened the party happened in the 3rd year of his reign? And now we're in the 7th. So this is 4 years later. Huh?
He's gone through at least 4 women at that point.
No, not necessarily. It's just 4 years later. Okay. So it could be at least all these beauty treatments were at least a year. So that takes one of the years out. Probably took a year to put the decree out there to all the places. So kind of in the same realm. But again, you see the 4 and the 3 ties to 7. You see? Numerology. Now the king was attracted to Esther more than to any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any of the other virgins. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. So here she's the queen right after Vashti. No one else was queen in between. And the king gave a great banquet, Esther's banquet, for all his nobles and officials. He proclaimed a holiday throughout the provinces and distributed gifts with royal liberality. When the virgins were assembled a second time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. But Esther had kept secret her family background and nationality, just as Mordecai had told her to do. For she continued to follow Mordecai's instructions as she had done when he was bringing her up. So she listened to his wisdom. She listened to his guidance. She listened to Haggai's guidance, right? She's hearing, listening, agreeing, following the guidance that has been given around her. During this time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. Bigatha and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the door, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. So two of King Xerxes' right-hand men that had access to him, that we saw him before, they're at the gate. Now, what is the gate? The gate is where people bring their grievances. And somebody would judge in place of the king. So the king didn't have to judge every single commotion that happened around, right? The king could focus on the kingly stuff, and the small stuff could be handed down to other judges. This was very similar to what Abraham or Moses did with Aaron and stuff like that. They started breaking it down so that Moses wasn't in all of it. Okay. So they plan to kill him. Mordecai overhears this. So verse 22, but Mordecai found out about the plot and told Queen Esther, who in turn reported it to the king, giving credit to Mordecai. And when the report was investigated and found to be true, the two officials were impaled on poles. All this was recorded in the book of the annals in the presence of the king. So the annals is like the kingly records and historical things of the kingdom and what the scribes would write down. And the king would say, yes, put this in, don't put the, And so the king was the authority of what went in the official library and records and all that stuff.
In my book.
Yeah, chronicles, annuals, there's same thing, just different phrases for it. So she gave the credit to Mordecai. She's like, man, Mordecai's watching your back. He's the one who found this. He's the one who brought it. He's on your side. Now, this is somebody you can trust. So she's politicking for him. She gave him credit, which is really important. And we'll see why as well. After the event, King Xerxes honored Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, evaluating him and giving him a seat of honor, then that of all the other nobles. Giving him a seat of honor higher than that of all the other nobles. So Haman gets, boom, high right-hand man of the king. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, Why do you disobey the king's command? Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore they told Haman about it, to see whether Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated, for he told them he was a Jew. So here he says, I can't bow. I am a Jew. A Jew cannot bow down to something else, to anyone else other than to God. Right? This goes to Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. This goes to all the way back, right? You cannot bow down because there's only one God, and he can only bow down to that God. So he's not bowing down to any person. And he does this because we know Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel, they don't bow down with King Nebuchadnezzar and all of that. So he's following the same thing. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay honor to him, he was enraged. Yet, having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. In the 12th year of King Xerxes, in the first month, the month of Nisan, the pur, this is the lot, was cast in the presence of Haman to select a day and a month. And that lot fell on the 12th month, the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people despised among all the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from those of all other people, and they do not obey the king's laws. It is not the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will give 10,000 talents of silver to the king's administrators for the royal's treasury. So here he's essentially bribing the king, he's half telling the truth, right? They do not bow down. That's the only thing that they're not really doing, but he doesn't like it because they're not bowing to him. And he wants the power. He wants the authority. And when that's not being given to him, he wants revenge. So the king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and the enemy of the Jews. Keep the money, the king said to Haman, and do with the people as you please. Then on the 13th day of the first month, royal secretaries were summoned. They wrote out the script of each province in the languages of each people, all Haman's orders to the king's satraps, the governors of the various provinces, and the nobles of the various peoples. These were written in the name of King Xerxes himself and sealed with his own ring. Dispatches were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to destroy, kill, and annihilate all of the Jews, young and old, women and children, on a single day. The 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of this text of the edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality so that they would be ready for that day. So he's putting out a decree. Everyone, you got to raise up your arms. If it's your brother, your neighbor, you're this, you're that, you're raising up your arms and you're going to go kill all of them. The couriers went out, spurred by the king's command, and the edict was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was bewildered. Dun, dun, dun. When Mordecai learned all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and ashes, and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. So this is a Jewish custom and a sign of mourning. So tearing the clothes is great grief. And then putting sackcloth on was mourning, and putting ashes on was still mourning. So he's mourning the decree and mourning the future death of all of his people. And he knows that this is coming from Haman, right? Like he knows Haman's pissed at him. Haman doesn't like it. And Haman went to him and he's like, I'm a Jew. I ain't doing it. And now all of a sudden there's this decree out there. Chapter 4, verse 2. But he went only as far as the king's gate, because no one clothed in sackcloth was allowed to enter it. So he was smart enough not to go beyond the gate, because then he was not allowed to come back in. So he knew as far as where he could take it. In every province to which the edict and the order of the king came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing. Many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's eunuchs and female attendants came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress. She sent clothes for him to put on instead of his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. So she's trying to say, don't mourn, don't do this. And he's like, no, this is the custom. This is what we need to do. Then Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs assigned to her to attend her, and ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. So she didn't get the decree. She didn't hear about it. She didn't know the news that was happening. So she sends out one of her servants to go, hey, find out what is going on. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the open square of the city in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. So how did Mordecai know that when the king didn't accept it, right? So Mordecai's got ins with people. He's got the spy network. He knows the exact amount of money that was portrayed. He knows what was going on. Who said what? He's got the whole. Yeah, he is the CIA of. All right, now all my videos are going to be tagged by them, but he is the CIA of.
This man is the gossip man of the town.
He's the gossip man. He knows it all. All right, so treasury for the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show it to Esther and to explain to her. And he told him to instruct her to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people.
She hasn't told them that they're Jews.
She has not told him that she's a Jew. The plot thickens. Hathach went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, all the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, as the king has the king has but one law, that they be put to death unless the king extends the golden scepter to them and spares their life. For 30 days, but 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. So she hasn't seen the king in a month. For the last 30 days, that was the last time she was called to go before him. She is not allowed to go randomly knock on the door. Hey, got a question for you. Not allowed, right? If she was to come in and he was in a bad mood or displeased, and he doesn't give her the golden scepter, she's done. That's it. It's game over. Killed. Boom. And she hasn't seen him in a month. So she's like, I have no idea what's going on. Maybe I didn't he wasn't thrilled or something. I haven't seen him in 30 days. So when Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. He's saying God has put you there for a reason. This is the sign that God is going, this is why you're in this spot. This is why you were raised up. This is why Mordecai put you in the beauty contest. This is why you found favor with everyone. You're here for this exact moment, this exact reason. Plus, you're a Jew. You're not going to escape this. You will be found out eventually. Not by him, but somebody can say something and then the anger can turn against her. So he's saying you're not going to be escaping this just because of your position. Vashti didn't get to escape it either. So he's like, you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders right now. Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. Go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, nights or day. For 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. 3 days. 3 days. See? Numerology's kicking in all over again. 3 days. So, day and night, 3 days. Here's the thing. You can't go longer than 3 days without water. You can go a week without food. Well, you can go longer without food, but really a lot of stuff happens after about a week. So 3 days is essentially as long as you can really go without water and stuff like that. This is why 40 days, Jesus 40 days in the desert is a miracle, because nobody could last 40 days naturally. So she's saying 3 days fast, don't eat anything. Now, what is this fast? Praying when you should be eating, right? Focusing on God, not on your fleshly nourishment, but focusing on the spiritual nourishment, focusing on guidance, focusing on these things. If you have a big decision to make, fast. Fast for a few days. If you're able to. If you cannot, God bless. If you cannot for certain reasons, right? I get that, because like diabetes or whatever, I understand. Like there's people that can't do it. That's fine. Fast in other ways. And what I mean by fast in other ways, it doesn't always have to be food, but it could be like, don't have the TV on for 3 days and pray and read the word and those things. There's ways of doing it, but not eating and drinking for 3 days, you really get to hear God's word, God's voice to you, because you're being dependent upon him and not on the flesh. Definitely. So verse 17. So Mordecai went away and carried out all of Esther's instructions. He agreed, went, did it. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her, and he held out to her the golden scepter that was in his hand. He sees her, gives her the golden scepter. Fasting is not only what we put in our mouth, but also what comes out of our mouth. Yes. Yep. Fasting, not only what you put in, but what's coming out. It's also keeping that focus with God. So during those times of those things, instead of eating, you spend that 20 minutes in prayer. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack time. When you feel like, oh, I'm really hungry, you go into prayer. All those help kind of tune out the noise and tune into God. So he holds out his golden scepter, and Esther is able to approach. So she approaches and touches the tip of the scepter. So she touches it, and it's essentially saying, thank you for holding it out, and I acknowledge that you have done that. The king then asked, what is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be given to you. And she's really smart. She plays this so well. She goes, if it pleases the king, let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him. Bring Haman at once, the king said, so that we may do what Esther asks. So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared. As they were drinking wine, the king asked Esther, now, what is your petition? It will be given to you. And what is your request? Even up to the half the kingdom, it would be granted to you. Esther replied, my petition and my request is this. If the king regards me with favor, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for them. Then I will answer the king's question. So come, let me make you more food. We're gonna then we'll talk. Haman went out that day happy and in high spirits. But when he saw Mordecai at the gate and observed that he neither rose nor showed fear in his presence, he was filled with rage against Mordecai. How often does that happen in our lives? There is a Haman that is in every one of our lives that the person just doesn't like you because you don't give them the power that they want. Right? We all have that like Haman in our life. And so Haman is not only just furious, but more so because Mordecai's not even afraid of him, right? It's like standing up to the bully. You stand up to the bully, and the bully gets more mad because it's like, my fear's not working on you, and you should be trembling at me. And why is none of the stuff that works on everybody else, why is it not working on you, right? So we all have this exact instance happen in our life. Maybe more than once. But nevertheless, Haman restrained himself from doing anything bad, and he went home. He's happy. He had a great banquet. He was in the king and queen's presence. Everything's coming up aces for him. He's hitting blackjack on the table. Everything is just like going my way, except this guy over here, right? But I'm not going to focus on him. Things are going my way. Calling together his friends and Zeresh, his wife, Haman boasted to them about his vast wealth, his many sons, and all the ways that the king had honored him, and how he had elevated him above all the other nobles and the officials. And that's not all, Haman added. I'm the only person that Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to a banquet that she gave. Ha ha! High praise! And she invited me along with the king tomorrow. I get to do this all over again. But all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate. His wife, Zeresh, and all his friends said to him, have a pole set up, reaching to the height of the 50 cubits, and ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go with the king to the banquet and enjoy yourself. This suggestion delighted Haman, and he had the pole set up. Dun, 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 dun. That night, the king could not sleep, so he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the records of his reign, to be brought in and read to him. It was found recorded there that Mordecai had exposed Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. God's timing is perfect. That night, he is reminded of the assassination attempt that was on him and that Mordecai saved his life. So he says in verse 3, what honor and recognition has Mordecai received for this act, for doing this? The king asked. Nothing had been done for him, his servants answered. The king said, who is in the court? Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on the pole that he had set up for him. His attendants answered, Haman is standing in the court. Bring him in, the king ordered. When Haman entered, the king asked him, what should be done with the man the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought to himself, who is there that the king would rather honor than me? So he answered the king, for the man the king delights to honor, have them bring a royal robe the king has worn and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and the horse be entrusted to the one of the king's most noble princes. Let them robe the man the king delights to honor and lead him on a horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. The king says, go at once. The king commanded Haman, get the robe and the horse and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai. The Jew who sits at the king's gate, do not neglect anything you have recommended. So, now Haman has to go and lead Mordecai around on the thing that he thought he was getting with the highest honor, the king's robe, the king's horse, the king's crest, and he has to go and proclaim this about Mordecai, the person he hates the most. Who has set up a pole that he wanted him impaled upon that morning. All right. So Haman got the robe and the horse. He rode Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man that delights, the king delights to honor. After Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home with his head covered in grief, and told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had happened to him. His advisers and his wife Zeresh said to him, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin. So they're saying, now that you've proclaimed him, Xerxes is aware of it, you can't go against him right now because that's not going to look good on you. Political suicide. While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried Haman away to the banquet Esther had prepared for him. So now he's running late for the banquet. The eunuchs are coming to get him because he's disshuffled, and now he has to go. Let's see. It's almost 8 o'clock. Do we continue? Or do we do part 2? It's 3 more chapters. Cliffhanger to the banquet. Cliffhanger to the banquet. All right. We're going to cliffhanger it. People are going to read ahead. I know.
I've already read it.
I know. They're going to read ahead. They're going to know the answer.
Because that way, if we finish early, we can talk about everything that happened next week.
Yep.
We can discuss it.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Are there any questions so far? I'll put that out there, since we have about 2 minutes left.
Who wrote this book?
See, that one doesn't have the intro.
Mine doesn't either. Mine does. And the intro, who wrote it?
A lot of them have a intro historical in it, but that Bible doesn't have that. I got to bring that 1800 Bible over.
Yes, please.
I got to do that. I'll do that next week.
Take this to it's the top paragraph. In the Hebrew Bible, Esther comes from the last of the 5 rolls, which are read at the great festivals of the Jewish year.
Let's see.
The book was written in Maccabean times to celebrate Jewish triumph over the Seleucids, survey of the Bible lands.
So,
seems to have been written as propaganda for the observance in Palestine of a festival brought home by the Jewish dispersion, which they call Purim, and is celebrated on the 14th or 15th of Adar, February, March.
Yeah, so it talks.
Not history, but legend. Propaganda.
This fast-moving story occurs during the reign of Xerxes, which was 486 BC to 465 BC. The adventures of the Jew when a Jewish exile. Well, the story never mentions God by name. God's hand and protection can be detected in the timing and combination of the events as they unfold.
Its reception into Scripture was long disputed by rabbis, for it contains no reference to the most precious things in Jewish religion and does not even mention the name of God. In the Greek Bible, it has its place among historical books and has been lengthened by the addition of passages intended to make it more religious book. Our English Bible includes the additions of the Book of Esther among the Apocrypha.
All right. I don't think anybody online could hear that one, though. That's good.
Read it.
All right.
If you want to.
Let's read it. Where is it?
It's at the top right here.
All right. So this is the Oxford Annotated Bible. So the info in here says, in the Hebrew Bible, Esther comes least of the 5 rolls, which are read in the great festivals of the Jewish year. It is the roll of Purim, a secular feast celebrating the deliverance from a subtle planned anti-Semitic pogrom. Its reception in Scripture was long disputed by the rabbis, for it contains no reference of the most precious things in Jewish religion and does not even mention the name of God. In the Greek Bible, it has place among the historical books and has been lengthened by the addition of passages intended to make it a more religious book. Our English Bible includes these, the editions of the Book of Esther, and this one has the Apocrypha. Some have thought that the book was written in Maccabean times to celebrate Jewish triumph over the Seleucids. But it is probably earlier and seems to have been written as propaganda for an observance in Palestine of a festival brought home by Jews from the Diaspora, which they called Purim, and celebrated on the 14th or 15th of Adar in February and March. It is not history, but more of a legend set back early in the Persian period, intended to explain the origin and significance of Purim. Though embellished with numerous fictional devices, it may well rest on historical account of some local deliverances of the Jews in Persia. For there is external evidence of a certain Marduk holding an official post at Susa under Xerxes I. So there is some there's some background historical info in it, as well as could be legend, but I think that legend would have been squashed out. Otherwise, yeah. Very cool. All right. I don't see any other questions, so we'll pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for coming together, for being with you, for guiding and protecting us, for watching over us. As we gather in your name, we feel your presence surround us. Lord, as we learn about your word, as we learn about the courageous things, Father, it enlightens our hearts. It gives us the courage. And Lord, we know that you are the source of all of it. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your mercies, that we can come before your throne. We know that that golden scepter is always held out for us because of your Son, Jesus, that we can always go in front of you now. For the blood that was shed, for the offering that was made that we can never make ourselves. Lord Jesus, we lift you up above all things. For you are our King of kings and Lord of lords. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Cliffhanger continues next week.